I would like to greet all of you a hearty happy Sabbath. Happy Sabbath. There we go. I would like to thank the choir for that awesome and incredible musical rendition. It is always a joy and a blessing to listen to really, really good music. And I would also like to thank Edzo for those kind words of introduction. Now I'm feeling the pressure to live up to those words. It is indeed a beautiful day to worship the Lord. And it is a bit chilly for me compared to the heat of the desert that is Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Qatar, where we were last week. But I do and can feel the heat and warmth of the fellowship of this church. Congratulations and keep it up. Thank you again for inviting me to this beautiful church. Edzo and Cheryl, one of my two best friends over here, for making it happen. I bring greetings from the land on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. And I rejoice to see many of you who are my friends and classmates that I know from way, way, way back then. Some are classmates and schoolmates from college in Mountain View College. I would like to personally acknowledge my classmates from my batch, 1993. I see Lilibeth. Kuya Tito Vicera, we were in the same class. Cheryl, I don't see her, but I think there were more, but who are not able to make it here. Edzo, I know very, very well. He's my best friend. He was my roommate back in college, and he was my best man at my wedding. And we were in the same singing group in college too, in the Advent Philomels. And he is as talented in music as well, if not more, than me. And Noreen, I know her from before, Noreen Love, from before first grade. And Anne, I know from first grade and high school and college. So I do know, I know a lot of you here. And some of you, and that was more than 25 years ago. Yes, let's face it, that's how old we really are. But some of you I also know from when you were already working in the hospital in Iligan when we were still students doing our clinicals. No, I won't tell them which ones you are and how old. But it really warms my heart to see all of you and us more than 25 years later, and some more than 25 pounds heavier later. But some I haven't seen since then, since I graduated from college, but are here now in a foreign land, happy. Most are married with families, some with kids who are already grown. Wow, I'm just starting. I just have a 2-year-old. By the way, I would like to again formally introduce my family who are traveling with me. Iris, my beautiful wife, she's over there in the back. And Tyler, who is 9, he's right here. Can you please stand and say hi? He's turning 10 next week, or on the 26th of September. And Riley is my 2.5-year-old girl. She's over there in the back. My brother Heldon and his wife Eve are also traveling with us and visiting from Abu Dhabi where they are based. He's over there in the back and Eve is over here. I think they were here last week. Anyway, there will be plenty of time after church to chat and continue our pleasantries. Before I begin, Let us have a word of prayer. Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, we thank you for your love and grace. Thank you for this privilege and freedom to worship unmolested. We invite your holy presence to be with us today as we open and study your word. Fill us with your spirit that we might see and understand your word for us. In your name we pray. Amen. Today my talk is going to revolve around a few texts, but the main one is found in Ephesians 4:1-2, which was read this morning in the scripture reading. Please dive into God's word by opening your Bibles to Ephesians 4:1-2. I, therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you to walk worthy of the calling with which you were called, with all lowliness and gentleness, with long-suffering, bearing with one another in love. Before anything, I would like all of you to picture yourselves in the following scenarios. Scenario number 1, you are driving. Who among you here are drivers? Raise your hands. Whoever are drivers would be able to relate with me. You are driving on the road, and the person in front of you, in the car in front of you, is driving way, way, way too slow. Very indecisive of what they want to do, whether they want to slow down, stop, turn, or what. How about this? You're driving on the freeway, or the motorway as you call it here, or even the side streets. Then suddenly someone cuts in front of you without even a signal or a wave of thank you. How do you feel now? I know, right? You can actually feel the rage in my voice. When we were visiting Dubai and Abu Dhabi and even in Qatar last week, those people there, the driving on the motorway is crazy. They will actually on the leftmost right lane there is a speed limit, but I guess the locals feel they own the road, so once you're in front of them, you beep, 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 get out of their way, get out of the way. So it's like so crazy. You're already going on the speed limit, and they're going like 20 miles more faster. And they do that without fear of being caught. I happen to come from a city in California that has consistently been documented over the past few years as one of the top 10 cities in the U.S. with the worst drivers. 2 are in California. The other one is in Los Angeles. We happen to have a demographic that drives around in our town with a machismo feeling of entitlement, the feeling that they own the road and everybody else does not matter. Scenario number 2, you are waiting patiently in line, queuing for something, and suddenly a stranger cuts in front of you. We saw this happen to us in one of the national parks in Northern California a few weeks ago when we were visiting, and I was touring my cousin. We were in line for a picture in front of one of the most popular and biggest trees in the world. And of course, there were a lot of people. So after we took our picture, some people behind us who were not in line, in broad daylight, they cut the people who were behind us. Like they were not in queue and they just came and went in front of the tree. Shocking, right? Of course, an argument quickly ensued. Come on, where are your manners, right? I won't say from what country those tourists came from. Scenario number 3. You are a nurse on the night shift. I know a lot of you here are nurses. So you call your patient's doctor on the phone to report your patient's condition. Then what does the doctor do? He yells and screams back at you because you woke him up from his sleep. Anybody experience that? I did in the Philippines. And it takes a certain kind of personality to keep calm and still think straight. how would you feel, right? So much for being their eyes 24/7. How about do your job, doctor, while I do mine? Or how about that supervisor who is always bullying and picking on you because you do not know how to stand up or speak up for yourself? Do you now see a pattern here? I could cite a few more scenarios. Did you know that one of our famous websites in the U.S., the Huffington Post, they came out with an article entitled "76 Incredibly Accurate Pet Peeves That Will Drive You Nuts." Pet peeves means things that people do that really, really, really annoy you. They came up with a list of 76, not just 10 or 20 or 25, but 76. I mean, how annoying is everything, really? They polled the newsroom and came up with a list of what exactly drives everyone crazy. No, I am not going to read all the 76, but I am going to quickly cite some of my favorite ones. Number 1, loud chewing. Or people who chew with their mouths open. When they do this, I cannot listen to what they're saying because I'm looking at the food that is coming out of their mouth. Anyway, does that annoy you? Number 2, people who are late or make me run late because I'm waiting for them. Number 3, when people are chronically late and act as if it were normal without even an apology. Hello, people. Have you heard of Filipino time? We are popular for this. So someone, please tell me, what is the real Filipino time? Arriving 30 minutes or 1 hour after the appointment time? Or leaving the house at the appointment time? Which is worse? Or is that the same time? I don't know. I really don't. How about slow cashiers? You are in line in hurry to get out of the grocery store, but she just seems to act as if she has all the time in the world. So slow, the line is very long, but she's just... Has anyone seen the movie Zootopia? It's a cartoon. It's a kiddie cartoon, but there's a funny scene there that depicts how slow the sloth was at the DMV. DMV is the office in the U.S. Department of Motor Vehicles, where we issue renew the driver's license and car registrations. I don't know what you call it here. DVLA. For those who are drivers and who have gone to this office to renew your car registration or driver's license, I don't know how it is here, but in the U.S., they are very, very slow. Even though the people who are queuing, it's a very, very long line, they still move so slow. So in that movie, that sloth, they accurately depicted it. It's a joke reference because it's like that in real life. She was like moving so slow. My head was about to explode. Or how about when you have to wait for your spouse? Getting ready for church or for our date. Now, God bless our beautiful spouses and women and all the effort they put into looking really good. I would just like to put that out there. Somewhere in this audience, she is doing a big eye roll. Yes, cue the eye rolls. Here's another one. How about listening? I don't know how it is here in the UK, but in the US, how about listening to the liberals or Democrats? Or how about the Republicans? In the Philippines, it would be the yellow coats versus the Duterte diehards. We just recently had an election in the US, as we did in the Philippines. Now, politics is messy and really, really dirty. And everyone seems to want to have their say on what is the best way to run the country. On social media, it can get really annoying during campaign season how your feed gets filled up with all the mudslinging of this party versus that party. And even now, when we already have a sitting president, it's still happening. Criticizing the president who won. People can't move on. And that is why, for the most part, I am apolitical. I don't support I don't get into politics because of the mess. So, anyways, what am I really trying to get at here? Surely I'm not going to spend the whole hour whining about how annoying people can get. One whole day might not be enough for that. But anyways, let us try to draw up some parallelisms here. Do you think that our lives now, or in our generation, life is more complicated or more busier compared to during Bible times? We might be tempted to think so. Let's go back to our text in Ephesians 4:1-2. Here, Paul is writing to the Ephesians, beseeching them, pleading with them, imploring them, the Christians, to walk worthy of the calling with which you were called, with all lowliness and gentleness, with long-suffering, bearing with one another in love. In a more modern version, it says, always be humble, patient, and gentle. Always be humble, gentle, and patient. Show your love by being tolerant with one another. Based on this verse, it would seem that they too, in those days, had issues with other people, most probably being annoying. He was calling for long suffering. The word evokes like suffer for a long time. It's very vivid. Patience. We live in a fast-paced world where we cannot even wait for our food to get cooked in the traditional way. We have to grab fast food, or we microwave instant food, instant this, instant that, instant mommy, instant whatever. We don't even write handwritten letters anymore. We do email or text. Sometimes we even cut the proper spelling of words into the informal shortcut text lingo, because typing out the whole word just seems too long. Is there any hint of long suffering in these behaviors? Let's face it, one can definitely conclude that we do belong to a generation of incredibly impatient people. Don't you think? Do you agree with me? What does the Bible teach about patience? The Bible is a great resource and reminder for the many that have gone before us with patience and endurance. Let's study the lives of 4 Bible greats, great men of faith, and see what we can learn from them. First off is Abraham, the father of many nations. God promised to Abraham that he would be the father of many nations. But when that promise was first given in Genesis 12:1-3, Abraham and his wife Sarah did not have any children. So he was thinking, how could I be the father when I'm getting old and I still don't have any children? God would continue to restate that promise through the years. But you know the story. Abraham, though as known as a man of faith, what did he do? He took his wife's suggestion and had a child with her handmaid. The son's name was Ishmael. But as you know, that was not the son God intended. Finally, it was not until when Abraham was how old? 100 years old. And Sarah was 90 years old, that God gave them their son Isaac. So though it took years of patiently waiting, they finally received the promise of God. Hebrews 6:15 says of Abraham, And so, after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise. Now, some of you may or may not know about the story of how my daughter was born. If you notice, the gap between my son and her is 8 years. So after we had Tyler, we again wanted to have another child, but we repeatedly had not one or two, but 5 miscarriages. 5 miscarriages after Tyler. So I think after the third or fourth, we decided to, and it would not, after my wife would find herself pregnant, just 1 or 2 days after, it's gone. So we decided to have ourselves checked, see what was wrong. And it was finally revealed that I am a carrier of a gene that, like I have how do you explain the technical term? A chromosomal abnormality that doesn't allow, the child to be, the pregnancy to be viable. So my chromosome number 5 and number 9 is inverted. So once she gets that, then her body will automatically abort the fetus because it's not viable. It's not compatible to life. So it was 5 out of 5 that has kept on happening. And so after a while I was like, okay, we're gonna move on, and no, it's not gonna happen. And we moved on. Then all of a sudden, boom, surprise, I'm here. 8 years after. So we suddenly had a beautiful girl, and she has, by the way, the same condition that I do, the same thing, number 5 and number 9. But we are very glad and blessed to have our baby. So, for some of you who are still trying, be patient. Maybe after 8 years, you will have your Riley. Or maybe when you are 90 years old, I'm joking. It's not a joke. The next Bible great is Joseph, who is one of my favorite and admirable great men of the Bible. Again, you already know the story. In Genesis 37, 27 and 8, it tells the story. Joseph's brothers sold him as a slave. Though he did not understand all that was happening, he trusted God to work out his plan in his time. Joseph patiently worked faithfully in each situation he was in. He waited for God to fulfill his promise that Joseph would be a leader to his people, of his people. And he had to be patient as he believed God, but probably wondered why he was sitting in a prison cell. But God did lift Joseph up to great power and responsibility. Not only he was a leader of his people, but he ruled over the people of Egypt too. So patience was needed to allow God to accomplish his purpose in the life of Joseph and his family. Another great Bible legend of patience is Job. His story, the story of his life, is probably the best known of the patience in the Bible. To prove Job's faithfulness to the Lord, God allowed the devil to destroy everything Job owned. This is found in Job 1. As you know the story, he was a wealthy man, but he lost how many? He lost everything: his crops, property, cattle, and his servants. But the most devastating of all was when he lost all his children. I cannot imagine being in his situation. However, Job did not blame God. He accepted that God had a plan and would be patient for God to reveal his plan. I don't know what I would do, if I lost my kids. Maybe my house, like all of a sudden you think about, if your house burned down, and you lost everything you own. It's mind, But when you lose your kids and your whole family, it's another thing. And to still be positive about it, that's why Job is, I bow to the patience of Job. Then what did Job's friends do? They came to counsel him. They tried to find out what great sin he had done to deserve the punishment he received. But Job would not admit to any sin. He knew that sometimes bad things happen to good people. He knew that God had a plan and was willing to accept what God allowed in his life. So what happened in the end? You know, of course, you know the story. God restored to Job not once, but twice as much as he had in the beginning. So it ended in a good way. Job 42:10. The last of the greatest example of patience of all is the story of Jesus. Hebrews 12 says of Jesus' death on the cross that it was something he endured. While his crucifixion was for our salvation, the Bible says his death was also an example for our lives. When we are worn down during our daily tasks, we are reminded in Hebrews 12, 2 and 3, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down on the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. Hebrews 12, 2 and 3. There. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. Before Jesus arrived at the cross, he patiently trained the disciples. Even after his miracles and proclamations of being the Son of God, the disciples were often confused as to who Jesus was. But today, we think of the disciples as being mature men of faith. But as we read through the gospel accounts, Jesus was still trying to teach them how to persevere in prayer up to the moment he was taken in the garden to be crucified. What does Galatians 6:9 say? And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So whatever the task is that God has called us to, we need to continue doing the work, even if we don't see the progress we would like to see. Even Jesus was teaching his disciples until the moment of his death. So Jesus is really the best example of patience for us. So how does this all apply to our present and daily lives? Long suffering, patience. It does seem easier said than done. Even though as human as we are, our human nature can always come up with hundreds, if not millions, of excuses or justification. Like, oh, it's not my fault, he did it first, or he started it, or he was a jerk, or that's why But we still need to practice patience. No excuses. I know God and heaven help us. Whenever we are confronted by a complicated or a potentially annoying situation, let us remember these Bible greats and their stories. In modern language, we just need to sit back and learn to chillax. Not just relax, but chillax. What does that mean? It literally means to just keep a cool head. I'm not sure, but you may or may not be familiar with that movie with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, where they are both cops or policemen, and Martin Lawrence is easily irked by a lot of the things that his partner Will Smith does or says. So I think his therapist says that when in a moment or situation where he's starting to get annoyed or angry, what is he supposed to do? He's supposed to take a deep breath and say out loud, Woosah. Do you know that movie? Have you seen that movie? You remember that? Well, let's practice. Repeat after me. Woosah. Woosah. Take a deep breath. Woosah. There. You get the idea. So, did you feel your head clear up a bit? No? Again. Woosah. So let's go back to our illustrations. So remember, when you are driving on that road and that car suddenly cuts you off, what are you supposed to do? Woosah. We do not know. He probably just had an emergency call that a family member was dying and had to quickly rush home. Remember that car driving so slow in front of you? When this happened to me, when I finally overtook it, I saw that it was a little old lady behind the wheel. Woosah. Don't forget that in 20 or 30 years, that might be you. You will be that little old lady or little old man driving so slow on the road causing traffic. And there will be somebody behind you throwing their hands in the air. So when you are waiting patiently in line and that stranger suddenly cuts in front of you, I know, but nevertheless, woosah. You can even take it a step further and tell him, "Sir, today is your lucky day. I reserved this spot just for you." It might just make his day. I have certainly learned that you have 100% absolutely no control over the events that happen in this world. But you have 100% control over how you can choose to react to them. Can you please put that on the... I'm going to say that again. You have 100% absolutely no control, zero control over the events that happen in this world. But what you have 100% control over is how you can choose to react to them. So, control your emotions. 2 Peter 1, 5-8 says, "For this very reason, do your best to add goodness to your faith. To your goodness, add knowledge. To your knowledge, add self-control. To your self-control, add endurance. To your endurance, add godliness. To your godliness, add Christian affection. And to your Christian affection, add what? Love. These are the qualities you need. And if you have them in abundance, they will make you active and effective in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ." So, when that spouse of yours is taking an extra long time in getting ready, and you are starting to get impatient, yes, this all is a message. It is a message and reminder to myself too, as much as it is to all of us. What do you do again? Take a deep breath and woosah. Don't forget that there are some, make that a lot of things about yourself that she has to go woosah about too. Then whisper a prayer not only for her, but mostly for yourself. And also a prayer of thanks that she actually does not take 1 to 2 hours or more to get ready for church, like some people I know, but only less than an hour. But like I said in the beginning, God, this is a disclaimer, bless our wonderful and amazing women and all the efforts that they put into looking beautiful. Proverbs 15:18 says, hot tempers causes arguments, but patience brings peace. What brings peace? Patience. Proverbs 16:32 says, whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he rules his spirit than he takes a city. 1 Corinthians 13:4 says, love is patient and kind. It is not jealous or conceited or proud. And that is why we will and should sit there and meekly wait, patiently, murmuring not. Because why? Because we love our wives. Can I hear an amen? Amen. A loud amen. Because we love our wives. So when you see on the news and social media that those liberal Democrats are fighting and arguing back and forth their views versus the opposing Republicans, or the pro-Duterte versus the Yellowcoats, and your head is starting to boil, what do? Take a breath and woosah. James 5:8 says, James 5:8 says, you also must be patient. Keep your hopes high, for the day of the Lord's coming is near. Yes, I long for that day. That is absolutely right. That day is coming where it will not matter anymore to what party you belong. The bottom line is God is in control, even with these events that are happening in the world. And if we are patient enough, we will eventually see and understand why things have to happen the way they do. And lastly, Colossians 3:12 says, you are the people of God. He loved you and chose you for his own. So then you must clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Somebody once said, patience is a fundamental virtue of Christianity. Not only does it help improve our relationship with our brothers and sisters, but it allows us to see that God's plan for our lives is bigger than anything that we are experiencing in the present. Can you please put that up? I will say that again. Patience is a fundamental virtue of Christianity. Not only does it help improve our relationship with our brothers and sisters, but it allows us to see that God's plan for our lives is what? Is bigger than anything that we are experiencing in the moment or in the present. Let that sink in for a little bit. I know a lot of us are going through something in life. Problems, there's always going to be problems. Challenges, conflict, stress at home, with the family, with the spouse, stress at work. It's endless. But it only means that if only we are patient enough to wait, in the end, we will eventually see and understand that everything is going to come full, it's going to come around, full circle. And that all these, as they say, trials and tribulations were just preparation for us for something bigger and better. Remember that saying that trials make pure gold? To become pure gold, it has to go through a lot of, refining. So all of this stuff that is bombarding us, just think of it as refining us to make us pure gold in the end. So again, let me end by saying this. There might have been too many things, too many key points and lessons in my talk for you to remember. But I'll be okay if you just go home today and remember this. When things go wrong, and as they sometimes will, take a deep breath and say what? Woosah, with feeling. Woosah. Right. Peace and blessings, church. One more thing. I have a confession to make. I have never done this before in my life. If it's not the first, this is probably the first I've spoken in front of this many people. I think it's the second. The first one was in Abu Dhabi 2 weeks ago. So please, I usually just play the piano. So please forgive me and allow me to overindulge myself to capture this moment, preserve it for eternity, because I don't know when or if it's going to happen anytime soon. So I will take a picture of you all, because you all look so incredibly beautiful and handsome from this vantage point. So everybody, cheese. One more. Oh, wait. One more. Ready? 1, 2. Thank you.